Yeah.
Thank you first, Peter.
Yeah, exactly.
Sinon tu peux pas juste pas comprendre. Putain, je l'ai pas passé souvent.
Okay, everybody ready? Yeah. You want to kick it off? Yeah. Does anybody want to pitch your idea again? Floor's open. No? Okay, cool. Last session, I asked you guys to write up your lead. Does anyone have any? I know, Jimmy, maybe you could tell us about your experience doing that, or
yeah,
how that's going.
Yesterday, I was writing up my headline and lead complex, and it was miserable. It was one of those where I did the research and had all this information in my head, and just writing it out, I could not find the hook, if you will. I mean, it's a free book offer, so it's generally, my first lead is going to be a direct offer. But even then, it just would not come out. So I wrote up about 3 pages worth of was effectively crap. And then this morning, I popped out of bed at like 4 in the morning, and I'm like, I know exactly what I need to write. Went into the document, deleted everything, and I mean, I had to come in, so I wrote it all out by hand in here, and I knew exactly what to put. And it was, I believe I had to go through that painful experience yesterday to be able to put down what I put down this morning.
Yeah, that's why, a lot of what we're teaching here is a process. It's not going to be as easy as step 1, step 2, step 3. Like step 1, write a great lead. Step 2, write a great lead, right? It's that easy. We wouldn't be doing any of this because it'd just be kind of commodity Walmart level work, right? So it's going to be painful. We're just talking downstairs, like how you might hear like someone like Gary Benzavenga will say there's no such thing as writer's block because you can, you should never have nothing to write about. You can always do more research to find more things to write about. But there's kind of a little bit of a fallacy there where it's just like the opposite of writer's block as you just write and it flows from your muse and you sit down and the words come out. Where a lot of time it is a painful process. So, and you need to go through that painful process because that's what gets your brain working. So your subconscious will hopefully kick in at some point and tell you what to write. Or you'll write 5 pages and the next line you write on page 6 will be your real lead. That happens sometimes. Anyone else have any experiences they want to share of trying to write the lead?
Yeah, I just remembered what you said a few days ago when you said that sometimes when you ask people what they think about your promo, you have very different advices. And yesterday we did a peer review with the French desk and I had 2 different, totally opposite angles and I had to make a choice between both and I didn't find the answer yet. So it's a bit, just to share. Sometimes it's difficult because it could be, I don't even know if choosing different leads will lead me to success or failure, absolute failure. That's a bit touchy.
Yeah, so you got to believe what you believe is the right one.
Yeah, I have my advice on it, but I am a bit afraid, wondering if I'm the good person to choose, if my promo will be better this way or not.
Like my advice would be extreme ownership. It's your promo, so you decide ultimately. Anyone else? Judd?
My biggest issue is the curse of knowledge, because I've been doing this for 17 years, and I know the ins and outs of everything. Then I'll start to write something, and I'll share it with someone, and they're like, what does that mean? And for me, it's like really simple.
Sometimes when you feel that way, I feel like it's because you feel like you're writing copy and you feel like you're writing to a mass audience. Just remember you're writing to one person. Yeah. Uncle Kurt. So like, if you feel stuck, like you feel like you're in the curse of knowledge, like just imagine you're in that casino again, or imagine whatever you need to do that, look at this doll, whatever you need to do, just pretend like you're writing to one person. Okay, not trying to think of how can I write this so everybody can understand it, because it's a lot of pressure, and that usually doesn't work anyway. So exactly. You just think of like your avatar who you're talking to, how would you have a one-on-one conversation with them so they get it?
Good point.
So, do you guys, when you're, I want to say this, when you're writing your lead, you ever say, hey, I'm going to do this intro, I'm going to model this intro from 42-day retirement memo, and then I'm going to grab that piece like in the middle of the lead from Oxford, whatever. And do you kind of like, structurally?
I mean, I have a lot more, my swipe file's a lot between my ears now.
Sure.
So if you fill it enough, then you don't necessarily have to go back but there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, there's nothing new under the sun. Taking a little bit of this lead, another bit of this lead, another bit of this lead, as long as you're not copy and pasting, as long as it's your own word, you're just taking the ideas behind those things, then it's going to make a brand new lead because no one's probably put those three pieces together that way before. So, a lot of creativity is just connecting things. It's not just, you don't have to innovate a lead. I mean, it's good. You can even model one completely, just pick one, but make sure it's your own words and your own ideas in those places. But, whether hitting scarcity or hitting scarcity, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. It's a great way to rely on the past and to learn, frankly.
But let me ask, do you think it'd be a lot more cleaner, a lot more smoother if you just like stuck with like one swipe file promo and just use that as a model instead of like just taking here, there, there? Isn't that like kind of sporadic? Like, doesn't that kind of like does it risk like you jumbling up the lead in a sense?
Oh, we'll answer that one later.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, stay tuned.
Yeah. I mean, just to tell you in general, I mean, like, there's not a right answer or wrong answer, I think. It's like, you don't ever want to just be like, I'm modeling this swipe, so I'm going to do exactly the same thing. Because it's because your idea is different. Your promotion is different. Your offer is different. It's not going to fit exactly in there again. So you're going to have to make decisions. Do I deviate from this and because it's the right thing to do? And the answer should be like, do what the right thing to do is.
Right. I know for me it's like I keep having this conception like, okay, I should be able to write this in like an hour or so. But really it's like I'm spending 2 weeks on this, right? The idea, the lead, and then like I find myself just constantly rewriting. I feel like I'm getting nowhere. And I don't know, like at a certain point I just in 30 minutes just might just go down on paper. That's what I was asking. Like, how long does it usually take you to craft your lead, like in general?
It's not really. It depends. I wrote Impact System in 2 weeks. I wrote the lead like in a day, but I spent 2 months pitching an idea and doing all the back testing myself, lining up all the proof and reading every system promo I could think of and writing down all the best ideas. So when I sat down to write, it was only 2 weeks, maybe only 1 week to write the first draft. I half done like the first day, but that's not really fair. It really took me 2 months.
Right. Okay. Makes sense.
Any other thoughts on the process? How did everyone get something on paper? Okay, that's good. Are you all happy with it?
No.
You don't have to be. In fact, like one of the dangers of people who write leads is you can get lazy and just rely on your lead when your lead's going to be changing as you write the rest of the promo. I mean, you're going to be thinking of things afterwards, and something's just going to pop out or a piece of proof or whatever, putting together. And sometimes I think the tendency is like, well, I already showed people this lead and this lead is set, so I'm just not going to mess with that. When when you turn in a promotion, it's a whole promotion. You're not turning it in chunks. And it helps to write the lead first because it's going to make it a lot easier the rest of the process. But, all right, I'm gonna go over something really quick, and then we're going to get into a demonstration. I just want to teach you a real simple concept that kind of fits into what Joe's going to show you with copyboarding, and I call it the OCPB sequence. OCPB sequence. And it's just another model or sequence to keep in mind as you write copy that can solve problems. It kind of dovetails real nice into copyboarding, which we're going to go over that whole process. But the O stands for objection, claim, proof, benefit. And as a reminder, what's the most powerful combination of proof? one piece of proof or
Three.
three. And one kind of proof or, three different kinds of proof, right? So within proof, but you can use it, that OCPB sequence can be as long as like one sentence, really, or even a paragraph. It doesn't have to be a whole section like we'll go over this. But so I'll give an example. The objection might be, how can I do whatever you're promising if I have no market experience whatsoever? So how do you get over that, right? Like, you could argue with them and say, no, you're wrong. And that's like, but we know that's like trying to correct and convince. So how you get around it is you just make a claim. You just say, anyone can do this strategy, even if you've never traded a stock in your life. Now, whether or not you actually, that's not a question too, do you actually put the objection in the copy as a rhetorical question? And the answer is sometimes. But I'll tell you that it's a lot more powerful, like we talked about last session, if you're overcoming their objections in their head without even having to say it. Then it feels like it's a real conversation. Like, I'm like, wow, this guy's reading my mind. That's exactly what I was thinking. Versus having the whole thing be rhetorical questions. Like, if you do like a 2-person interview webinar format like I did Vulture, then you can actually use the interviewer to kind of verbalize those objections. But so, okay, the claim is like, you make the claim, anyone can use the strategy, even if you've never traded stock in your life. The proof might be, you only need 3 things: a mouse, a computer, and the secret of where to point the mouse. That might be kind of a logical argument. Number 2 piece of proof might be like, here's a video, let me show you on video. And third piece of proof might be, check out what Susie Q's had to say from Iowa with a testimonial. Okay, and then you want to explain the benefit of what that claim is at some point. And the benefit would be, you don't need to read any books and courses. You can do this from the comfort of your home. You can make this work only 15 minutes a day. So you want to dimensionalize the benefit of whatever that claim is. So that fits a little bit into, we're talking about copyboarding, like one way to do it. But it doesn't, you could even use it like miniature chunks or sequences often as well. So if there's like a real small question, you can answer it in like 3 paragraphs, right? Just say new claim to get with a piece of proof and then benefit. So that's all I got.
Okay. So we're going to talk about copyboarding. But before we get there, I want to give you guys a little bit of the background. And it'll be very hands-on today. So it's group participation day. Ryan and I are going to talk a little, and you guys are going to talk a whole lot. So let me tell you about copyboarding, where it's going to help you, how you do it, and everything like that. And somebody at least has been through the process here. You went through the process with Brian Brown. Anybody else been through copyboarding-ish? With who?
With Aaron.
Got it. Okay. Okay, so I'll give you the backstory. I added up, last year I added up like 2 years ago maybe, I added up all the copy that I had read. And I got to, I think I read more than like 1.1 million words of copy that I read in 2016. And that's just our copy, right? That was just copy that we put out that I was trying to edit or trying to copy cheat. 1.1 million words of copy. And I noticed in reading all that copy that if copy came to me and it was bad copy, it typically suffered from one of 2 problems. The first problem, who can guess when copy lands on my plate and I believe I can look at the copy and say, that's total shit copy. What problem is it suffering from? The number 1 problem.
Incomplete idea?
No big idea. That's the number 1 problem, right? So copyboarding, what we're going to cover today, will not fix a bad idea. So that's why we're covering it late, whatever it is, past the midway point of copy camp. That's the number 1 reason I see copy that goes out and fails, is because it doesn't have a good big idea. However, let's assume it does have a good big idea. The second reason I see copy fail is because it's terribly organized when it gets to me. So when it gets to me, maybe the idea is decent, and maybe that promotion has completely went off the rails. And there's typically 2 signs that I see where I can almost immediately spot if that promo is going to suffer from that problem, which is unorganized. The persuasion is not right. The first thing that I can normally see is that I open the Word doc and it's like 98 pages of copy. Normally, that's a sign to me that something has went terribly awry during the writing process. Because not to say that a 98-page promo couldn't work, but it's not in the bell curve of normal for working promos. Normally that tells me that someone's got a ton of shit in there that they shouldn't have in there. And the second thing that I can see is, and here's a cool trick for you guys, and we're going to get to this in a second. You should be able to read the headline, the lead, here comes the trick, and then only the subheads. And that should tell you the whole story of the promo. If you delete anything in the subheads or anything in between the subheads, with a good promo, you should be able to read your headline, your lead, and then only the subheads, all the way down to the subscribe now button. And that should tell you the full story. If I open up a document and I read the headline and I read the lead and I start reading the subheads and it goes all cattywampus on me, I know that something's going to be wrong, right? So just to recap this. The second reason why I see copy not work is that the persuasion is not organized in the right way to lead the customer from the headline and lead down to the subscribe now button. So that's what copyboarding is going to fix. And the reason that we call it copyboarding is it's like storyboarding from a filmmaker's perspective. So think about it this way, right? We all want to make a movie. And it's going to be really expensive to rent a camera crew and a sound crew and a lighting crew. So what do we do in our movie, right? We don't have an idea for our movie, and then we go out there and rent all these people, and then we say, let's go make a movie, and then we just go start filming all the shit, right? Because then it gets to us, and we're like, well, I don't know which scene should go before the other scene. And, do we need the breakup scene before the fall in love scene, or do we need the fall in love scene for the breakup scene? So if you look at storyboarding and if you look at filmmaking, right, what they do is they have a concept for an idea, they have a script, and then they sit down and they say, where do these scenes need to be organized to tell the story that we want to tell? And then once the story is arranged the proper way, once they have it storyboarded out, they can bring in film crews and editing crews and camera crews, and then they film the movie, hopefully, much faster. You guys see the analogy? So what this is going to allow you to do is when you have your idea, when you have your headline and lead, this is going to help you write copy much, much faster in a much more organized way that leads the reader from the headline and lead persuasively to the subscribe now button. So let me tell you one more story. I'm going to give you a couple quotes and I'm going to tell you a story and then we're going to get to it. So one of my favorite copywriting quotes comes from arguably Abe Lincoln, and arguably because people aren't really sure if it's actually attributed to him or if he actually said it, which was, he said something like, if you give me 5 hours to chop down the tree, I'll spend the first 4 sharpening the axe. How does that apply to copy? Anybody?
Make sure the headline and lead and the big idea and the headline and lead are gold.
Yeah, so let's translate this to copy, right? Abe Lincoln said, if you give me 5 hours to chop down a tree, I'll spend the first 4 sharpening the axe. Translated into copy. If you give me 2 months to write a promo, I'll spend the first month and a half thinking about the idea. When I have the idea, I'm going to write that fucker quick, right? And I'm going to tell you why that's important. We had a copywriter a year and a half ago, who's no longer with us, who decided to write a book offer for Jim Records. And this is, I'm going to get all my dates wrong, but I'm trying to get this generally right. This is March of 2016. In November of 2016, something pretty big happened. What was November in 2016? The election. Okay. Here comes the story, right? In March of 2016, Jim Rickards puts out a book called The Road to Ruin. And in that book, he has an idea that basically says, he likens it back to an old novel called Cat's Cradle. And there was an idea in Cat's Cradle, it's fiction.
Kurt Vonnegut.
Yep, that is about this substance called Ice-9. And it's about this substance that somebody in the government created or something like that that would freeze. It was a substance that would freeze every adjacent molecule to it in ice. So if you drop this substance anywhere, it would start to freeze the entire world very quickly because there was a substance that would freeze every adjacent molecule. Okay, cool? And he's likened that, in that book, Road to Ruin, to what was going to happen in the next financial collapse, which was that the government was going to unleash an Ice-9 event to basically globally freeze all bank accounts, all stock market accounts, almost simultaneously, so that they could hit the reset button and reset the whole system. That was the idea in Road to Ruin. The copywriter said, okay, I'm going to write that idea up, And then the copywriter spent 7 months writing that idea up. Seven months. So they turned the package in, and it was all about how Hillary was going to get elected, and she was going to institute ICE 9. What happened in November of 2016? Hillary did not get elected. What happened to 7 months of that copywriter's work? Gone. You know why that copywriter took 7 months to write that? Because they didn't use copyboarding. Because what they did is they wrote a headline and lead, and then they stared at a blank piece of paper, and they kept writing, and they didn't know where they were going, and they didn't know which scene from a persuasion side was going to be before a different scene or after a different scene. And then they wrote 102 pages on a book offer, and then they deleted 70 pages, and they rewrote 82 pages, and they deleted those 82 pages, and it took them 7 months to do it. When the promo went out, sorry, the whole big idea is now ruined. So you give me 5 hours to chop down a tree, I'll spend the first 4 sharpening the axe, right? So what copyboarding is going to do is after you have a big idea, after you've thought about it, after you've pitched it, copyboarding helps you write copy fast. I don't know why anybody who isn't very senior in their career won't use what we're about to show you. Everybody should be using this. When you get senior, you don't really have to do this because all the stuff's going to be ingrained in your brain and you know the general flow of promos.
I would say though, like I don't necessarily use the exact method. We're going to show you with the Post-it notes. Though I wish I would have, if I could time travel back 5, 6 years. But I still use the method, but where it's just I'm simulating my brain as opposed to doing on like we're going to show you on a physical place.
Capiche? Cool? Everybody understand why we're doing copyboarding? Everybody understand why it should help? How it should allow you to write copy very fast after you have your big idea and why it's important to write copy fast. Say another thing, right? When you have a good idea, that good idea, like we've always said, that big idea operates in a time and a space, right? So if you write a big idea on Bitcoin and a big idea on cryptos, because cryptos are going up, 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 if you don't get that promo out fast once you have that good big idea, 2 things can happen. Number one, it might be likely that someone else in the world has that idea. And if they get it out before you, now your idea is ruined. Or you could be overrun by a macro event. Hillary could not get elected. Bitcoin could drop from 20,000 down to 6,500. Your promo's gone. So you should think slow and write fast. Cool? Okay, so copyboarding. Copyboarding has 5 steps. I like everything procedural because that's the way I think. Like I try to think creatively, but then after I get creative, I try to think like in procedures because it just helps my mind work. So 5 steps, and I'm going to give them all to you, and then we're going to demonstrate it. Step number 1 is that you need to have your pitch formed. You guys have already done that, right? You're past step number 1. You cannot copyboard until you've pitched and you are committed to an idea. If you copyboard a shit idea, it does not turn a shit idea into a big idea. Copyboarding will not fix a bad idea. Copyboarding fixes the ability for you to write fast and the ability for you to write structurally sound. So number 1, you have to form your pitch and you have to be confident of that pitch. Number 2, you do what's called an objection audit. And again, we'll demonstrate this, but you have an objection audit, which means that you bring 3 of your very best co-workers together and you pitch them that idea verbally. And you say, assume you're Grandpa Kurt. When you hear this idea, give me any and all objections that Grandpa Kurt will have after hearing that idea. Again, we'll do it in a moment. An objection could be like, who the hell are you talking to me? Why should I believe you? That sounds too complicated. I can't do it. Does this really work? Everything like that.
And like everything too, like down to like was my credit card transaction secure? I mean, just you think of like you met some of these people in the casino, like what are going to be their questions?
So any and all objections, you hold an objection audit and you just scream out objections. Step number 3, what you're going to do is say, let's organize those objections. After we get all of the objections down on paper, what do we as a persuasive copywriter believe that we need to answer first in the order of objections? So all you're doing is organizing from top to bottom the objections that you believe you have to hit in a certain order. Because think about this for a moment. If you don't overcome an objection that the reader is facing, what's the reader going to do?
Check out.
They're going to check it. Well, let's not use the checkout term, because that might imply a sale. They're going to click out of your promotion, right? So if you don't overcome an objection, the reader's not going to hang on for much longer. If the reader doesn't believe who's talking to them, and if you don't hit that in the order that they're going to believe it, they may leave that promotion. So what you're trying to do in step 3 is to anticipate those objections and say, what objection do I have to overcome before I get to overcoming the other objections? That's step number 3. Step number 4 is where generally the copyboarding meeting ends and you go back to work individually. And step number 4 is that at that point, you have all your objections in order. So if you think about your objections, you now have your full sales length or sales letter. You need to overcome all these objections in a certain order. Step number 4 is that you're going to turn those objections into subheads that tell the story. So that's where your work as a copywriter goes back on your own. You walk out of that copyboard meeting, you have all of your objections and you have them all organized top to bottom into what your sales letter should be. Step number 4 is that you're going back on your own and you're turning those objections into subheads that overcome those objections. Make sense so far? Now what you're going to have in your document is you're going to have a headline, you're going to have a lead, because that's your pitch, and you're going to have all your subheads. Remember that I told you that one of the things I do when I open a piece of sales letter, or when I open a sales letter, is I read the headline, the lead, and the subheads. And if that doesn't tell the story, something's wrong. I know something's wrong with that copy. At that point, that's exactly where you're sitting. You can read your headline, you can read your lead, and now you can read your subheads that are all meant to overcome those objections, and that should be your full sales letter right there. That should tell your full story. At that point, you should see glaring holes in your story if your story doesn't tell a full story. Make sense? And then step number 5 is that once you have your whole outline now, because you have your headline, you have your lead, and you have all your subheads that tell your full story, step number 5 is that you're going to fill in between the subheads what you're trying to accomplish deeper in that section. So if you know that one of your objections, because you're writing a front-end promotion, let's say, and because that front-end promotion is meant to acquire new customers that have never done business with us before, a subhead that you're always going to have to fit in there is why, who are you, and why should I trust you? That's going to belong in every front-end promotion, right? So let's say you overcome that by saying my subhead for that section is going to be, hi, I'm Jim Rickards, and I've worked for the United States government for 32 years. I'm just making that up. You know that when you do step 5 and you got to fill it in, what are you filling in that subheaded section?
Tell me a story about his 32 years in the government.
Copy is right. Did you say copy? It's always going to be copy that you're filling in, so you're right. But what did you say?
You're telling that story about his
Story.
32 years in the government and
Yeah.
why, and then related to why relates to the big idea.
Yep. So you know in that subheaded section, right, the thing that you're trying to do, when you fill in between your subheads, you're going to tell his story of credibility in that section. If you have a subheaded section that says, Mary Kay from Arkansas has already collected $5,200 from Freedom Checks, let's say, and you know that that was trying to overcome the objection of, does this actually work? What do you put in that section? So when you're filling in the blanks in between your subheads, and your subhead reads, Mary Kay from Arkansas collected $1,500 worth of strategy.
Tell a story about how she's a waitress and barely making ends meet, and all of a sudden, man, she's got these Freedom Checks. That's been a lifesaver.
There you go. Matt's good at this.
So a lot of this part, what you're doing, if you notice, is you're finding proof, right? Which if you go back to a couple weeks ago, what piece of proof fits into prove that claim you made in that subhead? It's pretty simple once you think about it. You know what I mean? If it's someone's biography, then the kind of proof you're going to put in there is a story with lots of credibility and really pushing that authority button. If it's about a system to make money and how does this really work, and you're using an example of like one person as your subhead, how many other people should be in that section?
Well, this is the big
At
benefit.
least 3, right?
Big benefit for you is that you're never going to get stuck ever again. When you're past your headline lead, you're never going to get stuck. Because I can tell you that if you don't use this system, we've seen way too many people where you get past your headline and your lead, you're on page 3.5, there's a blinking cursor on your screen, and you go, now what? and you just start writing. And it's like diarrhea of the fingers by typing. Does that make sense? You just start going, and then you end up 82 pages later and you turn it into me. And I'm like, what the shit is that? Why is it 82 pages? I'm like, something's going cattywampus. And I look at it. I'm like, they're awful tangents on page 32. They're bringing stuff in that's never been an objection on someone from page 52. So doing this will allow you never to have to get stuck again writing copy. You won't spend 7 months writing copy because when you walk out of that meeting, you have a structure for what you know your sales letter needs to accomplish. Coming back to a point Lloyd made earlier, which is like, should I take someone's sales letter and model it after that sales letter? You could. What copyboarding does is almost allow you to customize, every single promo that you write and still get you that same structure that you're trying to follow. So you walk out of the copyboarding meeting having your structure, but it's a little bit more customized for your promo, so you're not modeling someone else's fully. Does that make sense? Because everything's going to be slightly different based on your idea. We cool?
Can I say something about that?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, just I copyboarded the first promo. Jack and I copyboarded. I think you were involved in that. We did it online with that.
Yeah, I can't remember.
It's essentially like digital notes. I didn't do that with the book promo, and it did take me a lot longer because I was like, oh, well, there's already an income book promos out there. I can look at that, and it doesn't work that way. And so with this one, I wrote the headline and lead pretty quickly because the idea, I talked to enough people that I was pretty confident in it. But metacognitively, I had to think about it. I'm like, oh shit, I don't have 3 pieces of social proof in here. And you know what? I talk about the money that they'll make about it at the end of this shit. So even before you saw it, I let you see it. I made a lot of changes to that. So it was, so when you saw it, you weren't like, this is a piece of shit. But the other thing is, I sat there yesterday. I'm like, well, you know what? Maybe I'm just going to start writing some of this stuff now. And I realized, even though I have other mentor pieces that I can look at, I didn't really know where to go with this thing. And so I was just like, I'm just going to wait till we copyboard because it's just going to make my life. I could spin here for a day. Or I could do other stuff that I have to do. And then when we copyboard it, I know I'm going to be able to rip this thing out.
Copyboarding, this whole process, again, from pulling in 2 or 3 of your coworkers to going through an objection audit and then to organizing those objections is probably going to take you an hour and a half to 2 hours out of your lives. Right? But then you can reciprocate because if you pull in Kyle and Rob, if I pull in Kyle and Rob, and I say, hey, can you guys help me copyboard this thing for an hour and a half to 2 hours? And then when you guys have promos, I'll sit in on your copyboarding, right? So it should be a pretty reciprocal thing. It's going to take an hour and a half to 2 hours. We're going to demonstrate an insanely quick version of that here, so we're not torturing everybody. But it's going to take an hour and a half to 2 hours. I promise you, it is massively worth that hour and a half to 2 hours. I promise you that it's going to save you weeks of writing time, and or selfishly, from Ryan and my perspective, it's going to save your mentor a week or 2 of editing time. So it speeds the entire process up because the copy that you give to a mentor is going to be way cleaner than if you don't use this process. So like everything in life, right? At least if you believe in the philosophy that I believe in, which is kind of like libertarianism, I'm going to show you this. I'm going to encourage you to use this. You don't have to use it, right? Your fate is up to you. I don't know why you wouldn't use it. I would encourage you to use it, but I can't force you to do this. I can't say everything you write is going to be copyboarded for the rest of your life, right? I'm going to tell you that I would do it this way if I were in your shoes. You guys have to choose to do it. I can't make that choice for you. It's going to save you time. I promise you. Trust me. It's going to save your mentor time. Promise. Trust me. But you guys got to do it, right? So with that all said, let me tell you 2 more things and then we're going to get to an actual demonstration. You think about the objections again. So let me run through the steps. Step number 1, you have your pitch. You're going to start your copyboarding meeting with that, and we'll show you how it works. 2, you're going to do an objection audit. Write down any and all objections, not in any particular order. Just throw out any objections that the reader's going to have when they see that idea or hear that idea. Number 3, you're going to organize those objections into what you believe you need to accomplish you need to overcome objection 1 before overcoming objection 2. So you're going to organize that thing. Step number 4 is you're going to turn those objections into subheads, and you're going to read your headline, your lead, and your subheads to make sure it tells the full story. And number 5, you're just going to fill in between the subheads, knowing what you want to accomplish and overcome in that. When you think about step number 5, this is where your OCPB sequence comes back in. Because step number 5, you're always starting with a subhead that's meant to address an objection. So filling in that text, it should be the OCPB complex, right? You should hit the objection. make a claim, 2 to 3 pieces of proof, hopefully, and then talk about a benefit. So let me show you. My objection, let's say, is who are you and why should I trust you? Because it's a front-end objection, and I'm writing a front-end Rickards book, let's say. The claim could be, I'm the most trusted figure in macroeconomics in the world today. That's the claim, right? Your proof is it could be the United States government hired me to participate in 2 of the currency war game scenarios on behalf of the United States Pentagon. That's a piece of proof. It could be that I organized a bailout in the late 1990s that saved the entire world from financial collapse. That's proof number two. And number 3 is I'm a bestseller that routinely gets invited on TV when they want to know what's about to happen in the world. So that's 3 pieces of proof. And then the benefit could be something like, today, for the first time ever, I'm bringing my ideas to you to help you protect yourself from potential collapse. So that's an OCPB complex for a single objection-oriented subhead. It's not too abstract, right? Mm-hmm. Promise? Okay. I don't want to leave with confusion. I want to leave with clarity. Crystal? Clear? Okay.
Okay. So this is actually more of a comment on the OCPD thing that I think will be very useful for folks who are starting on their first thing, because you may be tempted to get creative, especially with the B part, the benefit. And what I've discovered in reading a bunch of promos and figuring out what makes them tick and what makes them successful and then writing my own is that your B, your benefit, will often be the exact same sentiment repeated over and over and over. So like every page and a half, your benefit will be, all you got to do is just click, place this, and make money. That's the benefit, and it will pop up like a dozen times in your promo. And if you really pay attention to like these hot promos that are working, you'll see that they actually just say the same thing. Like their benefit rarely changes. They'll have a couple sections where they tweak it a little, but then they hammer like one message and they burn it into your brain so that all I gotta do is go online, place one trade, and then make money. Something like that.
Mm-hmm. It's like the mantra that keeps going.
So whatever your big promise is, it's very effective to repeat that. And so, whatever you're overcoming objections, that promise, you got to tie it back to, how your promise was true, right?
That helped me a lot. When you write your subheads, in between the subheads, you can just put a couple bullets in there. If you're like, hey, I'm trying to map this out, you can just jot down a couple ideas. And also when you're writing, if you get to a point with that kind of stuff, just, hey, just write where you left off at, hey, maybe a cool story about X, and just go on the next one. That'll help you write about that.
Yeah. So again, that's another good thing to try out. Like everyone has different writing styles, but if you read any books about writing in general, having an outline is usually one of the secrets. So what Joe gave you was the skeleton for the subheads, but within there, you can make an outline for that if you wanted with bullets. I might even make it more faster. Worth a try. Brother,
I have a question about the process. So we know that 70 page is too much for a promo, that it should be about 40 page. So do we know if there should be a number of objections we expect to address?
No.
And do we know? No.
Sorry. No. I'll answer that fully in a second, but I didn't know you had a second half. I just jumped on it. Sorry.
That's fine. Because I've tried to do that before, and I found myself with a bunch of objections, and I was kind of lost. I was wondering, should I remove some of them because maybe I will not turn this one into a subhead all in of itself?
Okay, we'll go over that with your subhead. Doesn't have to answer every. You want to group the objections together. We'll show you how it works in a minute when we demonstrate it. But yeah, so you're not going to have, if you have like 80 objections, you're not going to have 80 subheads. Yeah. You're going to find that a lot of them can probably be addressed by the same subhead. Yeah. So why should I believe you? Are you credible? Have you done this in the past? Who are you and where do you come from? Like all those could be answered by one like biography kind of subhead, right? So you don't want to answer all of them. You want to use the 80-20 rule, and that's why the order of them is going to be really critical. Joe often brings up this mistake, how he'll be editing someone's work and he'll get to like page 50 and he'll start saying like, who am I? Oh, I'm this person. It's like especially on the front end, but even on the back end, like you need to know it's a major objection. Like, who are you and why should I listen to you? That should probably be pretty high up.
My favorite part is that when I read a promo, so I open it and I see there's 98 pages and I'm like, uh-oh, something's wrong in this promotion. I'll give it a shot though. Entertain me. Maybe it's a 95-page amazing promo. So I get to page like 13 and it's like, hi, I'm Jim Rickards, and I'm the trusted figure for the United States government when it comes to macroeconomics. Okay, cool. And then I get to page like 62 and I see a phrase again that goes, hi, I'm Jim Rickards. I'm the trusted. I'm like, something went wrong here because they didn't even, whoever wrote this didn't even realize that they did that thing. So that tells me that someone's not looking at it. Because you copyboard, you never make that mistake. You're not going to reintroduce who's talking to them 50 pages after you just introduced them in the first place. That tells me that someone started after a headline and lead and just said, I'm going to begin typing and my mentor is going to fix it. Like, that's lazy. That's crazy. And that's what takes a mentor weeks to get back to you then. Because oftentimes you turn it into a mentor and you're like, why is that person taking so long? Well, they're taking so long because, like, if it's me sometimes, I'm like, God damn, this thing is terrible. And I feel so poorly about this person that I'm going to put it into a pile and not look at it for like a week. And then when I look at it, I'm just going to rewrite it because I'm angry at them now. So don't do that to you.
A good copy is supposed to be a conversation, simulating a conversation one-on-one. I mean, just imagine like you meet you go to a car dealer, or you're looking at a car, you shake the guy's hand, introduce himself, and then like 15 minutes into the conversation, he's like, hi, my name is, you'd be like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? Like, it's got to be like, feel like a natural conversation and that's very powerful as one on the list of the kind of the cognitive biases we talked about last week, but anticipating objections. Like, you read a great piece of copy, it's like, wow, this guy's like reading my mind. That's what you want him to feel like.
Crystal clear? Okay. One more thing before we get to the demo. And I'm going to turn this puppy this way. Lloyd, you're going to quickly become our superstar here. Okay, so I just want to make sure that this is clear too, because we throw a lot of stuff at you guys, right? So I don't want you guys to leave this room and say, holy shit, where does this all fit in? So entertain me for just a second. You know how, like, if you're looking at a map, right, and you're looking at Google Maps and you say, hey, I want to go to the McDonald's down the street, but I don't know really where it is. And you can zoom in on Google Maps on that McDonald's, right? You zoom in and you can see the front store, and then you can pull your mouse back and zoom out and look at all of Baltimore, right? Cool. And I'm going to tell you this in a second, but we're zoomed in right here. We're zoomed into what I believe to be step 4 of a 9-step process in putting out a promo. So we're zoomed in right now to copyboarding. If you zoom out to the view of Baltimore, these are the 9 steps I believe in order you should do to write your copy. And I'm going to cover them right now. But I'm doing this just to all put it in context of where we are right now and to provide clarity of where you should be when you're writing your promotions. Step number 1 is going to be your idea and your pitch, right? Step number 2 is going to be your headline and lead. Step number 3 is I would always have an offer meeting with the publisher, with the editor, with some fellow copywriters. Once you have your pitch and your headline and lead. Having an offer meeting does what we did a couple sessions ago, which says, hey, what could we add to this offer to make it the most irresistible offer that people would climb over broken glass to get this thing? You should do that before you copyboard. And I'll tell you why real quick. Because depending on how strong that offer is, you may want to introduce that offer earlier. If it's the world's most amazing offer, you might want to introduce that earlier in your pitch. Okay, cool? Step number 4 is where we are right now today, which is copyboarding. Step number 5 is what you walk away with today, which is that you're going to begin actually writing your promotion, because now it's copyboarded, you have your structure, you got to turn it into subheads. So that's number 5. Number 6 is that you're going to go through a full draft, right? Because you've written and you got a full draft up. Number 7 is you're going to send that promotion to a mentor, to a copy chief, to give you edits on that promotion. Step number 7 can be very short or very long, depending on how well that sales copy is written. You may go through 3-4 rounds of edits. Step number 8, and I'm going to encourage you guys all to do this, we'll talk about this in a later session, which is after you and your mentor have what you believe to be a final draft. You went through all your edits, you've copyboarded, you've had your offer meeting, everything's perfect, right? I would encourage you guys to do what I call step number 8. We'll talk about this more fully. And I learned this from Paul Amos, who's with us, who is like the best copywriter out there for health, I believe. He does what he calls a live read. I'm going to tell you about it for 22 seconds now, and then we'll cover it in later. What that means is that you organize 3 or 4 other people to get together, and you read your promotion out loud. Someone reads your promotion out loud. And then you sit around and you effectively, as a group, identify major problems that still exist with that copy. But reading it out loud, I promise you, is much different than ever reading it in your head by looking at a piece of paper. You notice a lot of shit that goes wrong in a live read. Everything from copy editing shit that's going to save you time after legal. So if you can make sure that all your commas are in the right place and the words are the right thing, it saves you time later because no one else has to proof your work. So you find little stuff like that to big sections that may no longer work or may seem really boring when you read them out loud, but may not have seemed boring when you read them on paper. And then number 9 is legal, and we'll cover that next Wednesday. So I just want to make sure you guys understand. We're zoomed in on the map right here to copyboarding. When you zoom out, that's the process. So we're zoomed in right here. That's all we're covering today. Is that clear on the process? Okay, cool. So with that said, Matt Huseman has graciously agreed to be our guinea pig for us copyboarding an idea together. So Matt, you want to come up? Yep. And I asked for 2 volunteers. One is Lloyd, who volunteered, and the other is Ben, who volunteered. So I need you guys as well. Okay. I'm going to tell you why this isn't going to work with us today before we do it. You can't copyboard with 35 people. You should copyboard with somewhere around 3 to 5 people. And the reason being is that you cannot get a consensus with 30 people in the room, right? We say, hey, what's our favorite food? We're all going to have wildly differing opinions, right? So your sweet spot of copyboarding is somewhere around 3 to 5 people. What we're going to do today is going to be a hyper-accelerated example of this. And it's not really going to work because we got 30 of us or 20 of us in the room, and we're not all going to agree that that should be the structure of that sales letter. When you get 3 to 5 people, it's much easier to come to a consensus and to argue back and forth in a legitimate way, to debate back and forth. Make sense? Okay. So with that said, what Ben and what Lloyd are going to do, sorry, I'm going to turn that puppy here because I'm going to stand up there in a second. Okay. What Ben and what Lloyd are going to do is, Matt, you stand up here with me. You got it. Move this around. Ben and Lloyd are going to write down the objections that you guys are throwing out on those Post-it notes. So if you guys can just scribble the objections as people are throwing them out and then hand them to me, and I'm going to organize them in this word cloud looking thing back here. I'm just going to throw them up here. Okay? Sure. So what's step number 1 of copyboarding? The idea pitch. So we're going to start with Matt repitching this idea.
Okay, pitch first.
Yep.
Okay, so there are these certificates that are stored in U.S. banks, and they allow you to access the global economy and take that money back to where it belongs here in the U.S. And it does that in the form of regular income checks to you. And these are not stock certificates, they're not bond certificates. They're these special vouchers that I call American Liberty vouchers or Liberty vouchers. And they allow you to take these regular checks, regular income checks for as long as you choose to get them.
Okay, so that's the general pitch, right? General. What is step number 2 of the copyboarding process? Objection audit. So here is where we're going to have a little bit of fun. Matt just pitched you an idea. Your grandpa Kurt. Somebody volunteer. Rob, what's an objection that you have after hearing that idea?
It sounds like bullshit, dude. It sounds like a scam.
Okay, someone write that down. Sounds like bullshit.
How much paperwork is involved to get these?
Yeah. So bullshit. Paperwork. Do them in the form of questions, if you don't mind. Shorthanded questions, if you don't mind. Or just throw question marks after.
I'm going to say, we need a broker to do this.
Okay. How difficult is this? You guys can script the objections if you want. I'm just in case they get too hot and heavy. Does that make sense? So you guys don't have to write down the same. I'm just wondering if you have to write down, like, do I need a broker?
Yeah.
And you're not done, write that out. You can write them. Okay. Jimmy.
Fuck, I forgot it. Go ahead.
Fuck, I forgot it.
Is this is like some sort of government programs that are gonna fuck up my social security?
Great government program.
Right. Next one.
Where's the money
Am I
coming from?
qualified?
Where's the money coming from?
Great question.
Next one. How do I qualify?
Great. Keep them calm.
Why should I trust the banks?
Why should I trust the banks?
What's the catch?
See, I told you they were going to come hot.
Is this legal?
Is this legal?
Why are you telling me about it?
Why have I never heard about this?
Why haven't I never heard about this before?
How much else is profiting from that?
What was that? Who else is profiting?
Yeah.
Who else is making money from this?
How much to get started?
How much does it take to get started?
How much can I make?
How much can I make?
But these are not really objections. Like I feel like the flow what you're throwing at right now are not necessarily objects anymore.
I think there's still objections,
Yeah.
right? Like, because you might not buy from that sales letter unless you knew how much money you could make.
They're really not phrased as an objection.
Yeah.
But they're
Yeah.
still a seed of.
Yeah, it's a problem that you need to overcome.
If I have to sell with $1,000, I probably won't need to know.
Okay. What else?
Will this work for me?
Sorry, say that again.
Will this work for me?
Will this work for me? Okay. How about who are you?
Yeah.
We haven't answered that one yet, right? Who are you?
Yeah, how do you know about this?
Because this is, again, the other thing you want to define in your pitch is what product it's for and what purpose that product is trying to solve. This is a front end.
Yeah, it's a front end for an income gap.
It's a front end, meaning, again, the purpose is that it's trying to go to people who've never heard of us before and start a relationship with those people. And the reason that that's important is because who are you is an objection on the front end. That's going to be on every front end. It may not be an objection on the back end because back ends are sold to existing customers that we're only trying to monetize. So there's already a relationship on the back end. Does that make sense? So I forgot to list that step. Is in the pitch, you should say what the product is, if it's front end, back end, and what the purpose of that product is. And front ends are always going to be to acquire customers that we've never met before, and back ends are going to monetize the relationship with the customers we already have.
Why does this matter now?
Why does this matter now? Sounds good?
Write it down.
I don't know, did you do why are you telling me about this?
I think it's like a variation.
Yeah.
Variation.
We could write that. Someone could write that down. If this is so great, why tell me? We talked about that a couple sessions ago.
Did you, the two people with the two worst handwritings wrong?
This looks like hieroglyphics.
How did you disco wrong?
How did you disco wrong? Wait, you need to address that section. Wow.
I don't have a lot of money, then I still make money.
Okay.
Is this safe? It's safe. Good. Yeah, that's a real good one.
I guess on that, is it legal?
Yeah, that was
Already got
already
it. Legal.
Yeah.
Safe? Legal?
Do you get like,
Yeah, sure.
How long will the money last?
Great.
do I need to give you my social security number or anything like that?
Does the money ever run out?
Did anybody say how much?
How much? Yeah. I was just
Okay, we're
wondering, what is it?
gonna cut this off in just a second. Because again, this is gonna be a hyper accelerated example. How about what do I get? What do I get when I respond to you today? How much does it cost? Did we say that?
We said it, but we didn't write it.
I would even say, and I think we have maybe part of that. Where's this money coming from?
The gnomes.
Because trust the gnomes. I can't. Yeah.
How do I quadriplegic?
I should add another step. Make sure that the people writing down the objectives.
Wait, I got another one. So is this money coming from you? Are you the one writing these Liberty checks to me?
Where's the money coming?
Yeah, where's the money come from? I think is
that's
a
in
crucial
there
question
somewhere.
here.
I'm going to give one more. So where's the money come from? Do you guys
Write that
can you write that one down?
in English.
And then let's say, I'm going to close it out and say, when I buy today, how fast do I get this information?
Oh my God.
Okay, your work is done here, gentlemen. Sit down.
I'll be coming to both of you later to translate, please.
Okay, so I'm going to go over and over this to drill this into your brains and to ingrain this into your brain.
Quick question.
Step. Yes, sir.
Is there like a standard objection usually?
Yes. Correct. Yep. So that's a good question. And I'm going to get to that in just a second.
Oh yeah.
Let's go over the process just so I can ingrain it in everybody's brain. Step number 1. Idea pitch. Step number 2.
Objection on.
Objection audit. Objection audit. That's what this just was, right? We're auditing any and all objections, problems that we believe Grandpa Kurt's going to have after hearing that idea. Step number 3 is what we're about to do right now, which is organize those objections, right? So, coming back to Sean's point, there are going to be certain objections that you're always going to have to overcome in every sales letter. And that's going to be slightly different on front ends and back ends again. So in the front end, because you're meant to acquire cold customers, you've never done business before, that didn't ask for this information to land in their email box, didn't ask for it to land in their Facebook timeline or feed or whatever that thing's called. In every front end, you're going to have to address, who are you and why should I trust you? Again, in the back end, you may not need to address that because Jim Rickards, if he's writing to Jim Rickards' own customers and he's pitching them a $2,000 service, he doesn't need to reintroduce himself with all his credibility. They inherently trust him because they have relationships with him, right? But yes, on both front ends and back ends, you're always going to have certain objections. On the back end, for instance, you're going to always have an objection of, that's a lot of money. Can I make my money back and how fast? When you're pitching a $2,000 service, that's going to be an objection that Grandpa Kurt will always wonder. $2,000 sounds like a lot of money. How fast can I make that money back? You don't have to address that objection on the front end because on the front end, it's only $49. Does that make sense? So there are going to be categorical objections that you're going to see come up over and over again based on front ends and back ends that you're always going to have to overcome.
I've read a bunch of back ends and I think they still, like there is still some kind of introduction.
Normally
it's
it's
just like shorter.
Yeah, normally it's like, hey, Jim Rickards
It's not
here.
to say who he is. Yeah.
Sort of reminders of bona fides, typically, especially the ones I've noticed. It just if it's like about some system or something like that, the bona fides probably have something to do with why he's uniquely qualified to give you that system.
Okay.
Yeah, think about it this way. And I don't want to get too distracted with this, but think about it this way. You're going to call up somebody and you need to talk to them. And you're going to call up somebody you know. So I'm going to call Benji. What do I say when she answers the phone?
Hey, it's Joe.
Hey, it's Joe. Right? What do I say to Angie if I don't know her and I'm trying to sell her something? It's probably longer. Hey, my name's Joe. I work for this company called Agora Financial. Right now we're the largest direct response financial publishing company in the world. We've got over 1 million subscribers in 232 countries. I'll do that if I know Angie. I call up Angie and I go, hey, it's Joe here. And then I just go in. I can tell you something about work, right? Whatever. So on the back end, you can do that very quickly. Does that make sense? Like, hey, it's Jim Rickards here. On the front end, you got to provide a lot of credibility. So yes, there is always still an introduction of who's talking, but it's much, much, much shorter on the back end. Okay, so we are on step number 3, right? Which is organizing our objections. So the first thing we would do as a group, as a 2, 3, 4, 5-person group, is we'd begin to put these in just general piles of start of the sales letter, middle of the sales letter, end of the sales letter. So what I would do is I'd start to take all my ones that related to the offer and put them towards the end if it's a front end. Because front ends typically don't start with the offer. Okay? So I take stuff like, how fast can I get this info? That's an objection that they're not going to wonder until they understand much more before that, right? So all I'm trying to do is anticipate what objection they're going to have first. And then we can talk about how we overcome those objections in the next ones. So I'm starting to put this in a pile. So I'm going to say, hey, how fast can I get this info is probably something that I'm going to address in my quotes.
How much is it?
How much is it?
I think it's the one with the sort of dollar sign in it that looks.
Yeah. Where's the money?
How much money to
Yeah,
start?
how much different?
Yeah, I can translate.
We're going to...
I'll help translate.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what. I'm just going to write real quick.
Money. What
Cost.
cost of? Okay. bullshit.
Very money. Okay, I'm just writing real quick. And I wrote it sloppy too, just to make sure that it didn't make the other post-it notes feel bad. Okay, so how much does it cost, right? What else? What else needs to be in the back half of the sales letter?
How long to get it?
How long to get it? We got that one. How fast can I get this info? Let's just say that's it, right? Okay, so now let's talk about what do we have to address. What are some of the post-it notes that we believe, some of the objections that we believe we're going to have to address first in this
Who
event.
are you?
So who are you? Who are you? That's going to have to be addressed early on. So now I'm just putting these in the start, right?
How does this work?
Let's say that. I would argue that that's probably in the middle because that's going to be a mechanism type of review.
Sir, what is it?
Does it actually?
Like group? Who else is doing it? I'd say.
So I'm going to put this one down. Who else is doing it? You're right. That's going to have to be social proof.
Okay, and just think back to like you
I
talked
think
about
bullshit,
different
yeah.
lead things you need. You know, social proof, authority was very powerful in the lead.
So
Promise.
anything mechanism related, I'm putting in the middle. Do I have to give my social security number for this? That's going to be mechanism related. You know, how long does the money last? We'll put that up top.
What do I get? Will be
Joe, how
the,
would the general order be for a back end? Would it be first or something? Like offer at the beginning?
No. Yeah, most, you know, and you'll get this by reading most backends. Unless it's an offer-driven lead, no. You know, unless his pitch was an offer-driven pitch, then no. Almost all offers are going to be long at the back, unless it's an offer-driven pitch. If he was stuck here and pitched a backend that said, "Hey, I got a program that costs $22,000, but you could sign up today for $350. What do you think?" Then yeah, all those are going to be objections in the front end. Not in the front end, in the front half of the promotion because it's offer driven. Does that make sense? What do I get? I'm putting back here, right? Because that's an offer related question. What do I actually get when I subscribe? Is this legal? We'll put in the middle. And again, I'm doing this very, very quickly just to demonstrate. So all I'm trying to do is organize 3 piles. What do I need to address first? What am I going to save for last?
Will it work for me to the left?
Will it work for me?
It's the at the bottom.
Cool. What the catch we'll put down here.
Will it mess up my
Paperwork and broker probably go in the middle.
Yep, paperwork and broker in the middle because these are all mechanism type of things.
How much money to start?
Do I have to give up my social security? How much money to start?
I don't trust the gnome.
Trust the gnomes. I don't even put that
trust the
everything.
banks. It's trust the banks. Yeah.
Trust the banks.
I remember because I said
That's
the
banks.
only reason.
I respectfully disagree with that.
Why haven't I heard about this before?
Why tell me?
Why do I? How do I qualify? How do I? That says qualify.
Yeah.
How? It says how.
How do I qualify? Put
That's
that in the
one
middle. Why tell me? Put that in the middle. Is this safe? Put that in the middle. Money origin. Where's this money come from? Maybe that's the same thing. And this is going to come back to like. Again, somebody asked earlier, like, you know, you might have 2 objections that sound really similar. Like the money origin versus where does this money come from? Almost sounds like the same thing. In the copyboarding, you can throw one of them away and put the other one down here. And how much can I, I don't know what the fuck that says again.
Let me see.
Note to Joe and Ryan, next time, ask for handwritten samples.
Can I make money? I don't have much.
So that's already been addressed. Yeah. So
That's fine.
okay. So really, we're the point that I'm trying to make, and this is why, again, this should take about an hour and a half to 2 hours. We're going to do it here in 25 minutes. But the point I'm trying to make is that you're going to want to organize these into general buckets, right? So now let's start here. We're going to zoom into here. And what we're going to do is I need the tallest person in the room. Is that Rob K? Yeah, if you came up, all 3 of us would have to stand on each other's shoulders.
Who's tallest?
Who's tallest?
Fred.
Fred, you're tallest.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so you get the tallest person. And now what we're going to do is we're going to start, if you look at it, like imagine that you're looking at your Word document, right? We're going to start from top to bottom, and we're going to start to organize things top to bottom because this is going to be our subhead flow. So that's why you need the tallest person in the room. So I'm going to do a very, again, accelerated example of this. So of these, what are we going to hit first? What this means is that we read our headline and lead. The first subhead that we need to overcome, the first objection, what is the most important thing here that we believe, and we're not going to get consensus because more than 5 people, it's even consensus here, tough to get consensus for 5 people. But of these, what is the first objection Grandpa Kurt's going to have? We just heard that pitch. We just heard that pitch. What's the first one?
What? Sounds like bullshit.
Bullshit.
Sounds like bullshit. Okay. So do you mind putting that as high as you could put that?
I have a question about that. Wouldn't that kind of be already addressed in the leads? Kind of?
Yeah,
Like-
let's, just for purposes right now,
Yeah.
let's just say we're going to have to address it.
Okay.
Or they're all going to be.
Yes, they're
Yeah,
all going
so
to go
higher,
straight
right.
down. Perfect. If you pay me $1 million, get that thing off the wall.
Good job.
Okay, let's assume that's a consensus, right? That Grandpa Kurt's going to say, this is going to sound like bullshit. Okay, what's next? Aldous, who are you? Who else is doing this? How long does it last? Will it work for me?
Who else is doing it?
Okay, so let's just say, I'm just going to assume that we're all right here. So let's just put that next. During a copyboarding session, these should be debated, right? We are not going to debate them because if we do, we're going to be here until 11 o'clock, and that doesn't work because we only have the room until 10 o'clock. Next.
Will it work for me?
Will it work for me?
I think we've got who are you? I think that's really critical.
Yeah.
So what happens oftentimes here is that you're going to start rearranging things, and you're going to be like, oh, we forgot about that one. So let's say that who are you? We now say, we need to address who are you before bullshit. Because now we got them out of order.
Big Fred jump.
Yeah.
You don't even have to.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's say fuck up Social Security. Does this fuck up my Social Security? Okay, we got 3 more. Let's just put them in order real quick. How long will it last? Why does this matter now? And I don't trust the banks.
Why does this matter now?
Why does this matter now?
Urgency.
And then let's say, I got you. Now I'm good. I get the lower ones. How long will it last? And let's just say, I don't trust the banks, right? Okay. So now what we're trying to do here is this should be the order of our subheads if we agree that this is our flow, right? Because now we're going to begin after we get through the next 2 sessions. Does everybody see what we're doing here, though? So we're organizing top to bottom on these objections that we need to overcome. So for purposes of this, let's go through this really fast. So now we're in kind of the body / the mechanism section. How does this stuff actually work? What's actually going on? This is typically where a reveal is going to come out that he's going to say, hey, these are American depository receipts. So this is the mechanism section, and this is going to be our mechanism objections. So everybody throw one of these out. Paperwork, broker, how much to start? Is this legal? Do I need to give a social security number? Is it safe? Where's it from? Why tell me? How much money can I make?
Legal and safe. Back to back.
Safe, legal, back to back.
I'm gonna get that out of the way.
We lost some objections.
What's the catch? What's the catch in bullshit? Kind of, let's say.
Yeah.
Why tell me?
Scribble.
Let's just say, where's this money come from? How do I qualify? Broker, paperwork. Do I need to give a social security number? How much to start? Why I not hear of this?
Yeah,
why
that
I
one.
not heard of this?
I like why I'm not here this.
I think the broker, the paperwork, how much do I need is like right before the offer. And I don't know. That's my opinion.
Okay. So
I'm
these
not a
are
copy
debating
broker.
if these are going to be down here. Those 3. How do I qualify? How about that one?
Right before them.
How did you discover this? What we might see is maybe that belongs up top.
Higher
right?
up, yeah.
So maybe we said, we realize that we need to address this subhead before we do, we need to do this subhead before we do a different subhead, right? So again, you think back to storyboarding and you think back to filmmaking. They may say, hey, they look at it and they say, hey, this doesn't really make sense because we can't have the breakup scene before we have the love scene. So maybe we need to rearrange this movie a little bit to put the love scene before the breakup scene. So in copyboarding, oftentimes what you're going to do is be like, oh, I forgot about this one. Now, this doesn't make sense because we can't address it later because they haven't heard about something else before. So oftentimes in copyboarding, you're rearranging things time and time again. You might be like this, right? Well, I gotta forget. Okay, now does that make sense? Does that logically and persuasively make sense? Okay, yeah, that's better, right? Okay, so why have I not heard of this? Can I make money from this? Do I need to get a social security number? How's it work? What type of paperwork? Okay, now we're in the offer, right? How much does it cost? How fast can I get this? And what do I get, right? So maybe it's what do I get first? I'm ready to subscribe now. What do I get, right? So this is where we're going to stack bonuses on. okay, how much or how fast do I get it? Oh, you're going to get an instant download. And how much does it cost, right? So that's what you end up after an hour and a half or 2 hours. That's what you end up after a copyboarding session. And then you look at it as a group and you say, let's go through these objections one by one now. Let's just make sure before we walk out of this meeting that that's what we want to do. So you typically have a little bit of a wrap up. He pitches the idea again. And then we say, okay, now there's the idea. We're going to address first. Who are you? Sounds like bullshit. Who else is doing it? Will it work for me? Will it fuck up my Social Security? Why does it matter now? How long does the money last? How did you discover this? Why should I trust the banks? Is it safe? Is it legal? Why are you telling me? Where's the money come from? Why did I not hear about this? Do I have to have a lot of money to make money? Do I have to give my Social Security number? Do I qualify? Is there paperwork? How much is there to start? Do I need a broker? What do I actually get when I pay you here today? How fast will I get this info? And how much does it cost? It's not terrible.
Yeah,
what we probably did in 15 minutes is better than what 95% of freelancers ever turn into me. If you were to write the sales letter based on that. Okay, so let's say as a group, we say, great, that looks fantastic. That is where copyboarding meeting ends. Then, what Matt does, he goes back on his own and he writes all this in a Word document. So now he's got his headline, his lead, and what I like to do, and again, you could choose to do this or not, is I write in like 12-point font in parentheses, all of those down. And then what I do is I try to write 25-point bolded subheads above that would overcome that objection. So then when I look at it, I have my big bold subhead, and beneath it, I have a smaller objection that it's trying to overcome. And that helps me just organize my thoughts, right? So when I look at this and I say, okay, who are you? I'm going to write that down in a 12-point parenthesized, is that a word?
Sure.
It is now. Parenthesized?
It is now.
Section in my Word doc. And then I'm going to somebody write me a subhead on the fly. So this is for, actually, Matt, you write me a subhead on the fly. This is for nihilism and Tiv, right? So write me a subhead on the fly that would overcome the objection that someone has of who are you?
Like I'm the hi, I'm the income guru or something like that. Hi, I'm the retirement savior.
Okay, so yeah, my name's Nihilism and Tiv, but you could just call me your retirement savior. That's right. So let's say that's the subhead that's in there. And I'm going to do that one by one by one by one by one throughout my entire document. Okay? So bullshit. That sounds like bullshit. Write me a subhead that would overcome. That sounds like bullshit.
Millions of Americans are getting rich off
Liberty coupons.
Liberty vouchers.
Okay. So what Matt has after step number 4 is a Word document filled with all of his subheads. What does Matt do next before he gets to step 5? He reads his headline and lead back to himself again, and he reads all the subheads, and it should tell the story. If it doesn't tell the story, something's missing. Cool? Then step number 5 is Matt basically does OCPB loops in each one of those sections. So we're going to write that right now. First subhead he gave me was, hi, I'm Nihilism and Tiv, but you can call me your retirement savior. Write me an O. Well, you got your O, which is who are you? You got your claim that you just wrote on the fly.
Remember, just like in a headline complex, when you put a subhead, your next sentence should probably repeat the subhead. Okay, you can't assume people are going to read the subhead. So you might want to, the same idea, the first sentence of that subhead, you want to repeat basically that claim. Like, thousands of people have called me
the retirement savior because I helped lead them to the retirement promised land.
Okay.
So now what do you got to do for that?
So that Matt's filling in between all of his subheads. That's step number 5. It's basically writing the rest of the sales letter, right? So, hi, I'm Nihilism and Tiv, but you could just call me your retirement savior. That's the headline. Well, that's the subhead. Again, first line could be, for 15 years, I've helped 182,000 Americans take back control of their retirement. That's why they call me the retirement savior. I've also written 3 books on income that have been best-selling books. I graduated with a magna cum laude with a fancy degree in income investing, which doesn't exist. Let's just say it does. And I've had my individual financial statements audited by a third-party firm, and they've confirmed that I've doubled the returns of Warren Buffett. So what I'm about to show you today is my favorite idea yet that can make you shit tons of money. Does everybody get how that was an O? The objection was there. A claim, I'm the retirement savior. 3 pieces of proof, and the benefit that what you're going to hear today is my favorite income idea I've ever come across. It can make you thousands of money. Okay, so that's all you're doing when you write your promo letter.
That's the benefit.
That's the benefit.
This is my favorite income.
And what I have to show you today can make you thousands of dollars with little to no work.
To Kyle's point, the more you can tie that to the actual big promise in your lead, better. So, like, you might want to use specific. Like today, I'm going to show you how to make thousands of dollars using these.
Already vouchers.
But I mean, that's always what they're always thinking when you make a claim, you make these proof. It's like, who gives a shit? You don't want them to feel that way. You got to tell them why they should care. What's in it for that?
Let's do the next one. That sounds like bullshit. And the subhead that you gave on that was?
Yeah, it would be like millions of Americans are getting rich off of living vouchers. You would maybe the first sentence would be something like, what is it? Objection first?
Yes, you got your objection, which is that sounds like bullshit.
So you got your claim.
You got your claim.
I know this must sound crazy, but I've identified thousands of people around the country who've already pulled in $10,000, $20,000, even $100,000 last year off of Liberty vouchers. And then I would give my 3 pieces of social proof for probably 3 of those people. Mary Johnson in Houston, Texas, and I already did that because I just found people who, investors that were listed on Yahoo. So I've got that. And list those 3 people, and I say something like, and you can easily, make 10,000, 20,000, or even 50,000, just like these 3 did when you own your own Liberty vouchers.
Right? So Matt's just written 2 pages of his copy. It's right in front of you. And that took how long? I'll tell you how long it takes. That took 1/100th the time of a freelancer who didn't go through this process. I promise you. Because it's where everybody else gets stuck. So Matt knows exactly where he's going to go. He knows where he needs to go next. And he can't get off on a tangent here. He can't get off on a tangent because he's already listed all of his subheads. So he knows he has to address that it sounds like bullshit in that section. He knows that he's going to put social proof to overcome that. He knows he needs 3 pieces of social proof. He knows he needs to end with a benefit, and he needs to know he needs to match up to overcome the next objection. This is so different than how freelancers write. Freelancers literally are sitting in a garage by themselves somewhere that they call a home office, that they need to stare at a blank piece of paper and turn in 85 pages of copy because they don't know what objections they're hitting. They don't know in which order they're hitting them. And they're relying on a mentor or a copy chief to say, here's my favorite phrase. Well, I just write everything down and you tell me what to cut. Oh, God. I don't want to rewrite someone's promo for them. This allows you to write so much faster. So those are the 5 steps.
So another kind of tie it back again to another order session, right? Like research, technique for producing ideas. Like when do you do the research? Well, you do the research when you're trying to come up with the idea. But you're going to see by following this process, you're going to have a subhead and you'd be like, wow, it'd be really great to have a story to have this proof. So, sales detective, you go back to the editor then and get that piece of proof. So when you're researching in the beginning just to find the idea and make the connection. But then you're going to have to research again, and this is a lot more efficient because you can spend a whole year researching something, or years even, which is just a total waste of time. This is going to tell you exactly where you need to research to fill in the gaps. So if you know, like one of the objections is, where do these come from? And you need to answer that with the subhead, it's like these come from hundreds of banks around the country offer these, but you don't know the banks. Well, go find the banks then.
I actually did that yesterday when I was killing time because I'm like, I got to do some stuff. I was writing lists too, so I actually had it up to date. But I was like, well, I wrote down a bunch of objections. I'm like, one of the things they're definitely going to ask about is, you told me, hey, people don't really like investing in foreign countries and stuff like that. So, the story, if part of the story is, hey, we're repatriating this money, I started looking up, popular ADRs from our enemy countries, from like China, Russia. I tried to find some for Pakistan. There weren't any. And then I was able to find that data. So I can quickly run through that section and say, Trump is giving less money to these countries now. And hey, guess what? You're able, but we're still giving them $300 million. Now you're going to be able to take some back. If you use this one Liberty voucher, you can make, $50,000 this year.
Yeah. Another thing about having this structure in place is you can write the lead and you want to build curiosity about having info gaps. Well, in order to have an info gap, you have to know what the information you're going to actually promise is. So it's really, so you're going to go back and modify your lead then and be like, in a few moments, I'm going to tell you why this is 100% safe and legal. And you can make that info gap, that open loop, because at some point you're going to fulfill that.
Would it make sense to save that wherever a document and put it aside? So if you want to redo the top section and have the rest of it.
Yeah, that's what I was saying before, what your lead. I mean, it's important to have as much of it done as you can before you start this process, because it's going to help you pitch it and actually understand what you're doing. But you're going to be changing that lead based on this process. That's why, on Joe's kind of list here, number 5 is right.
If you want to do a new lead for the same promo type thing.
Yeah, you can really.
Sometimes they just renew, and they just good sellers kind of similar section. Keep that to the side, and then if you want to do say 3 new release for promo, you can just kind of go to that. So
that's another advantage too. It's right. It's if you have the rest of it figured out, you could write more than one lead. In fact, we know from a fact, if you tested it, that really strong promotions that have gone through this process and have a great idea, you can relead them over and over again. So.
What other questions? So let me answer another one coming back to yours earlier, though. Because I just want to reiterate this, right? You could probably have 5 Post-it notes if you could find the stickiest substance on the back that they wouldn't fall off. That would always be the same. So coming back, are there universal objections? Yeah. Absolutely. So rather than you having to write new Post-it notes all the time, you could find the stickiest substance ever where you could peel and put back on, peel and put back on. That would say stuff like, how much does this cost? I'll tell you another objection is I don't want the goddamn newsletter. We didn't address that. But no one wants a newsletter. Because again, we don't sell newsletters. We sell opportunity and premiums. So you're going to have to at some point convince somebody that's going to be an objection of I don't want a continuity program. I just want Canadian Social Security. I just want the report on Liberty vouchers. So there's going to be a subheaded section that you're going to need in every one of your programs. I don't want the newsletter, especially on the front end. I just want the report. So you're going to have to convince them that having the newsletter is a benefit for them, that's the way that you ongoingly communicate with them to show them what new Liberty vouchers are coming out and when to sell and how much they should expect to make, right? So that's a universal objection because on the front end, I don't want the newsletter, at least almost universal. Another one is always going to be how much does it cost? Another one is going to be, will I get my money back? We didn't even address that. If this doesn't work out, will I get my money back? That's probably going to be an objection. So there are going to be universal objections that you have. Really, and that's going to be most of your close. Again, how fast do I get this information? If I buy today, do I have to wait 2 weeks for this thing to show up at my door? Or do I get an instant download right now? On the order form, you could typically address, is this secure? That's becoming less and less of an objection. That was a much more prevalent objection when we started marketing on the internet for the first time. Because now we're marketing to 70-year-olds and the internet was new, right? And they don't know where their credit cards go. Now, most of the time, there's fraud protection, there's this and that for the banks, the credit cards. So most of the time, it's not as much of an objection, but it used to be an objection.
Something like that, you wouldn't need a whole subhead. That could be answered by a sentence.
Are those also in the FAQs?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Question.
Yep.
Can you do the objection audit with non-copywriter?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep. I mean, you can do it with anybody that you believe will give you their honest opinion that you think could relate to the customer or could be the customer. It's probably not great to pull in hey, my 17-year-old nephew who doesn't know anything about this business, come do my objection on it, right? But if it is the actual customer avatar, or if it's somebody who understands the customer avatar, then absolutely. You know, it could be somebody from customer service. They understand the avatar because they're talking to them all day long on the phone. And they're hearing objections that we probably don't ever think of. Mm. You know, so it could be someone who talks to the avatar. It could be the avatar. It could be a marketer. It could be a fellow copywriter. It could be the publisher. Just make sure they're either the avatar or they understand the avatar. It doesn't always have to be just people in this room. What other questions?
I have a question.
Sir.
Have you ever used the chargeback angle for a guarantee? Like, we're so confident in our stuff that you could get a chargeback and we'll be deemed as a credit on our system makers and whatever, that's how confident we are. Have you ever used something like that?
No, chargebacks are so dangerous for us right now. We don't even want to bring it up. It's like the word I never want to hear again in my life.
Right.
It's that would also, I mean, anyone with a chargeback, there's something to be said about you don't want to implant objections they don't have,
right?
Which is actually kind of like an old sales, like a lot of salesmen they don't close the sale because they bring up objections the customer didn't have.
Right.
In that case, to be like, well, why would I have to charge it back? Shouldn't I be able to just call and get my money back?
Right.
So I mean, it's kind of interesting. Like a broader point too is when you do these things. That's why you want to do it as a group of people and really think through each one. Because you don't want to put an objection in here that they don't even have.
I heard one of the most amazing ideas that I remember I told you guys the other day that I always feel like I know a good idea was when I get jealous and I think of it. And I'm telling you, this is going to be a quick tangent, but I heard this idea that I'm like, damn, that's a phenomenal idea, and it's so obvious. Why didn't I think of it, right? And it's going to be tangential to this, so I'm getting off on a tangent myself. I'm letting Copyboard this presentation. So, one of the objections, right, is always going to be, can I get a refund? And on all of our back ends right now, we're defaulting to a no refund policy. Someone came into my office the other day and said, we should sell refund insurance. And I'm like, fuck, that's an amazing idea. So like, I don't know how many of you guys have traveled recently, but right, you go on vacation or something. What is the first thing the travel agent offers you? So you're booking, I know, because I just did it, I booked this stupid expensive trip to Disney World with my family in like a month. So what's the first thing the travel agent offers me after I booked this $6,000 stupid trip to Disney? Travel insurance. They say, hey, look, for $600, you can get travel insurance, and if anybody gets sick in your family, if you break a leg and you can't get on board the plane, we'll give you $6,000 back. So now that we've limited refunds, now that we've eliminated refunds on the back end, we can have the first upsell sell them refund insurance. We sell them a $2,000 product, and the first upsell is, hey, as you know, we don't offer typical refunds, but for $200, you can buy a 30-day refund policy. That's fucking crazy.
It's a great idea.
That's a crazy idea. We'd be selling a refund insurance where we used to just give refunds.
Which is non-refundable.
The refund insurance is non-refundable. It's amazing. That's amazing. What percentage of our customers will take that upsell and then never cash it in? That's amazing. That's a brilliant idea.
Yeah.
It's a hedge. It's a complete hedge.
It's amazing. And then you can have an FAQ in here that says you will have the ability to get a refund if you choose. If you choose. So now in the sales letter, do I get a refund? You have the ability to have a refund if you choose.
Yeah.
It's brilliant. It's brilliant. Anyway, tangent. What other questions? Okay. No other questions. So this is what Matt's going to walk away with, right? Not today. We'll have to do it again, but because you can't read half the stuff.
Well, yeah.
So this is what he walks away with. Again, he turns it into subheads, then he fills in the blanks with that OCPV loop. I just want to cover this again. We are zoomed in right here to step number 4, basically, of a 9-step sales process, right? So zooming out, you guys should understand this is where we are in the whole thing. Because the danger in doing a lot of the theory like we've done up until this point is that you may not know where we are. And you may be confused, like, oh my God, there's so much theory. There's the 4 Ps and the 4 Us, and I need a big idea, and where's the copyboarding fit? And oh shit, I need a great offer. So I just want to make sure that you guys understand this is the simplicity. When you zoom out and look at the Google worldview of a promo, this is what a promo process looks like. We are right here in copyboarding right now. So Matt would walk away from this and know that he needs to write the promo. That's the next step. And that's exactly where generally where he is right now, if this were real. Yeah, for sure. Cool. this help clarify?
Also, question. Can you describe what that looks like say, like a model? Please do all
I mean, he should be doing all that. He may not, but he should.
that. Yeah, like Ryan saying, like a lot of stuff you have kind of in your head, like you get to see.
I mean, I still follow that 9-step process. I mean, I think like my copyboarding is more in my head, right? 4, but I think the rest of it I follow.
Jack Ford does it every time.
Yeah. So I think the only step that a lot of people skip because it's relatively new is this one, this live read.
Yeah.
Because this is brutal, man. I'll tell you that. If you organize 3-4 people, I'm sorry.
You shouldn't
skip it. Yeah. But again, it's relatively new to us, so we haven't implanted it yet. I'm encouraging you guys to do it from the start because you'll ingrain it in a good process. It's worth the time. But we never did this before because I only learned about it recently. You know, we would go really right from editing to legal. And what we learned and this changed with the video sales letters. What we learned is that when you actually read a promo out loud, it's much different feeling than when you read it in your head on paper.
Yeah.
And the VSLs forced us to read these things out loud. So then someone said, if we're forced to read them out loud, why don't we read them before we ever have an editor read them? And it's like, well, that's a good idea. Because, you know, what happens is the editor reads them and, you know, you get blooper reels of the editor who can't read certain words and phrases because they're just awkward sounding. So let's discover those before, right? So that's really the only process that's somewhat new. Everybody else is going through pretty much, like Ryan said, I mean, copyboarding is going to be in his head, so he may not do it anymore. If I do any promo, I'm still doing all of this. You know, Evaldo's probably doing copyboarding in his head. Most people skip an offer meeting, but they shouldn't for the reasons that we talked about. I'm convinced that if you get 5-6 people together and you say, dream every crazy thing, Scott could attest to this because Scott just did an offer meeting yesterday. And he came up with 2 ideas in his offer meeting that I've never heard before on a front end that's going to position his front end differently than any other front end that's out there. Right?
If you don't do it, you're an idiot.
Yeah. So, I mean, and how long did it take? 20 minutes, right? So a lot of people skip this because it's relatively new, and a lot of people skip this. But if you guys do this for each one of your promos and start to adhere to this one, I promise you it's a much better way to write.
On your step, hold on, 2, 3. Can you clarify your step 5?
Yeah.
And
right,
like how it relates to step 5 and step 6?
Yeah. So step 5, you're just going to write. Okay.
You're filling in the subheads.
Yeah, you're filling in the subheads. Step 6 is that you're going to get to your first full draft, of which you should basically sit aside yourself and reread a second time before you turn it in for edits. That's really it. So I don't like to go from just writing to turning into your mentor.
You should not.
You should write, and then put it aside for a day and come back and read your shit one more time before you turn it into someone to edit. So that's really all step 6 is that you have a full draft, sit on it for a day, and come back with fresh eyes and read it tomorrow before you turn it into a mentor.
And clean it up.
Exactly.
So I'll just give you a trick I do. It's not something you have to do, but basically every time I open the document, so if I'm paranoid, I'll save the document and then go to the bathroom and then come back, sit down, and open the document back up again. I'll start at the very top of my copy and just start reading it again from the very top all the way down to wherever I left off. So I go home for the night, put it away for a while, and open it back up the next morning, and I'll stop at the very top again and go all the way down. So it's just a trick to try because, yeah, it's like literally the first draft is what you're turning into somebody, big problem. So I don't know if I follow, like, again, like it's probably for me, like I'm rewriting it, parts of it, or rereading it, like maybe, I don't know, how many times I open up that document, which could be multiple times a day, right? But so at least once, go through it before you turn it. You just don't write it and turn it in. That's not, that's amateur, okay?
So that's the difference between them. Is this one you're just writing to fill in OCPBs with all those? Here you're just rereading it a second, third time before you turn it in for editing.
Sure. There's a thing I usually use I use a Mac, so you can do like a command line thing and read it back to you.
Yeah, that's good.
Oh, that's a good trick. That's good.
Yeah.
You can do that in Adobe Acrobat too, if you can read back.
Yeah, you have to highlight a section you want to read. As you go by like a paragraph at a time, you go like 2x. But so anyways, yeah, you use that setting in Mac, you can have it read back to you.
Cool. I'll give you 2 little ninja quote unquote tricks. I like it took me a while to get used to this, but now that I'm used to it, I don't like to do it any other way. I love to write in Google Docs, personally. That's a little bit controversial because a lot of people still like to write in Word. I love to write in Google Docs because it can be collaborative and you can share with a mentor, and if you're co-writing that promo, that mentor and you can go back and forth time and time again without you having to share version control of a document in Word. So that's number one. I love writing in Google Docs. Number two, if you use Google Docs, which you can do, and this is really cool, is your subheads. There is a setting in Google where in Google Docs where when you highlight a subhead, you can turn it. I don't know what the actual phrasing is, but basically you could say this is part of my outline. This is a subhead in my outline.
Oh yeah.
A heading. There you go.
Yeah.
And what it'll do is it's pretty cool. You can arrange your screen where it's on the left-hand side of your screen or the right-hand side of the screen. I can't remember. It'll show you your outline while in the other section of the screen you're in your main, like what you're writing on.
Yeah.
So you can always have the subheaded outline of your promotion on the screen while you're actually writing in each one of these.
You can do that word too. Most of it's too lazy to.
So I'm too lazy. I didn't know that. So it's kind of cool because you can see, like, if you're in this section, you know that you got to meet up with this section. And you can see it all in the outline on the right-hand side. So you can always have that outline, which should tell the full story from start to finish, minus the details, but should tell the full story while you're looking at that and you're simultaneously writing in here.
I'll give you another trick too when you're doing that full draft, like number 6. You should probably read it out loud then as well. That can't hurt, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you should also print it out on paper. Reading it on screen is tough sometimes because our tendency to read things online is just to skim. So you can also take notes then on the paper. It's kind of maybe going to make you flash back to all those things you did when you were studying in your swipe file as well. You know, so to kind of look at it, it's going to kind of maybe like tie the two processes together. Maybe that'll jog some insights. But do it in the physical form if you can, because you're going to catch things you didn't catch reading on screen.
Back to your tip. Do you have a tip to organize your research with Google Docs?
I don't. Some other people do. Like
Yeah.
Jack Ford that spoke.
Scrivener uses
Jack Ford is like the hacking, the copyright hack king.
Yeah.
He's got all types of. He's like. I think it was in one of those Batman movies or something where the Joker said, "Where does he get such wonderful toys?" Because he had all this shit on his bat belt. I feel the same way about Jack. He's got toys and gizmos and gadgets and shit for organizing I've never seen. So ask Jack. You can write to him. I think it's just anything at jackford.com, I think. Like Jack at jackford.com, John at jackford.com. I think that's what it is. So you can ask him. He's got all types of tools and techniques. And it's always changing too, but he's got a lot of gadgets.
Next week, we're going to get to legal compliance. But you do want to keep track of where you get stuff, I guess, however system you do that. Because I've had before where I like cut and pasted an article or something, and then it's a great quote, and then I'm like, fuck, I don't remember I got this thing. And I'm trying to Google chunks of it. You know what I mean? You do want to figure out some sort of system to collect your research, especially if you're pulling things off online, so you can remember where you got it. Because we'll get to that next week, but you need to remember where you got it from.
Okay, let's talk some logistics. So today, what time is it? I don't even know. Is it noon or 1? No, we're doing beer and
Yeah.
I think I've heard both times.
I think noon is like the food probably, and then 1 is the actual tournament. I don't know. I think it was like that last time. That's what I'm saying.
So we'll just say noon.
Okay. So let's say noon. We're at 1023 North Calvert. 1023 North Calvert, did I get that right? So noon, we're there just to say, hey, thanks for suffering through pitching in front of everybody last week and preparing and everything like that. So we get that at noon today. We'll play some beer or some ping pong, drink some beer, bong some beers. We'll do that today. Monday, we have basically order forms, funnels, upsells, downsells, cross-sells, plus a really cool way to launch promos. So that will get very tactical. Basically what to do, everything after you write your promo, right? Like what comes next in the process, which are all the funnels and the order forms.
I'm going to try to get you guys some homework for that. I got to get the links of a funnel to look at before Monday, but I have to get that from the marketing people.
And then on Wednesday, we have legal compliance, which is the most fun section of the entire copy kit. where we're going to teach you, why legal's there and how you protect yourselves, and how we protect ourselves, and how we make sure that, we don't end up sued or in jail or anything like that, that's the fun part. Okay, so everybody, any questions today, noon, Monday, order forms, funnels, all that good stuff, and Wednesday, compliance, legal, how to deal with that. Good?
Yes.
Anybody want this? The 9 steps of the promo? So you don't have to write it down?
Yes.
Hold on 1 second. Let me shut this puppy down.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, yeah.